above. Chafal from Rav. That's nice, no? That's good. Well attended?
What?
Well attended?
Yeah, about 200 feet.
That's very nice. Okay, without any further ado, since it's very late, it happens to be time we have some lighter and more interesting stuff if we can express ourselves that way about the Gemara than we had the last couple of weeks. You have tax collectors who enter into a house. Now, tax collectors, even though they're Jews, they are considered to be defiled. Not because necessarily they collect taxes specifically, rather because the people who collected taxes were considered to be not the creme de la creme of Jewish society, so therefore they, generally speaking, are regarded to be tamei. So question, when they entered your house to seize your chattel, did they defile it and make it tamei? So do Gaboim, collectors which return vessels which have been taken, seized, they are believed to say that they did not touch certain objects. It says here Gaboim, but the Korban Eidah has the Girsa in the second case of Ganovim, right, thieves, as opposed to collectors. So they're believed to say that this is what they didn't touch. Yerushalmi, now this is outside Jerusalem. In Jerusalem itself, they're even believed on vessels which are already holy. And if it's a yontif, then they gave credibility ala truma on truma as well. That's of course a lot of information to throw at us when they're believed, where they're believed, and the Gemara is going to try and sort it out a little bit. The tax collectors which entered the house, they're assumed to have made it tamei. Okay? Right off the bat, this is a Mishnah in Masechta Taros elsewhere. No, not like our Mishnah. We're going to reconcile the two. If the Gaboim enter the house, they are tamei. They make the house tamei. It's assumed everything in the house becomes tamei. If, however, there's even a goy with them. Now, the goy obviously is checking on them to make sure they're doing their tax collection properly. But besides that, he also is somewhat of a check on them. In other words, that they're not afraid to lie because the goy might contradict them. So then they are believed to say we came in and we didn't touch. Pasal or train patrik. Now, there are two ways of interpreting that Mishnah in light of our Mishnah. Now, one way is they're believed to say we went in Avalona Ganu, and we didn't touch. And even even there are individuals who saw them go in. Now, this is a very interesting concept. I'm really explaining this according to the Ridbaz, who goes into a lot of detail. But there's a concept to which you may be familiar with and maybe not, called Pesha Asar Pesha Yiter. Meaning, if you have no way of knowing something except on the basis of what I say, then you have to give me credibility. That's the halacha. If I'm the one who tells you something and you don't know anything except by the basis of what I told you, otherwise, you would have come to the house and not realized the tax collectors are there. The only way you realize the tax collectors were there is because they tell you that. So then you are subject to their credibility, both l'chumra and l'kula, both for stringency and for leniency. So that's only true if they're your sole source of information. But if you're not your sole source of information, because you know from witnesses that he entered the house, so then they do not have that halachic tool of pesha asar pesha yiter. Literally, the mouth that forbids is the mouth that permits, because they're not the mouth that forbids. We know from other sources that they went in. So that's what this approach is saying in this resolution of the Mishnah in Taros with our Mishnah over here, that they are believed to say they didn't touch, even if they are not our sole source of information, even there are witnesses who saw them enter the house. Now, that's only, however, on stuff which is not Kodesh, meaning on regular stuff, chulin, mundane stuff. Yerushalmi, Ne'emanim al Kodesh. In Yerushalayim, they're believed even on Kodesh, even the holiest stuff. See, in Yerushalayim, even the tax collectors are holier. They're believed on the holy stuff. Afilu yeshedim yodim. Even their witnesses who know. Now, the catch is that outside Yerushalayim, they're not believed on Kodesh, and that's true even if they have a pesha or a pesha hitir, and even if Goy accompanied them. Okay, because in Yerushalayim they believe on Kodesh because Yerushalayim is a holier place. But outside Yerushalayim, they're not believed on Kodesh, even if there is a guy with them, which normally gives them credibility because they're afraid to lie in front of the guy, and even if they have a pesha asa, pesha iter, even if they are the sole source for information, they're the ones who tell us they were in there, and they tell us they didn't defile things, nevertheless we do not accept them, again, because they made a special milah, a special level, higher level for Kodesh. That Kodesh requires a higher degree of certainty, and only in Yerushalmi are they granted credibility. Okay? Now, that's one way of interpreting it. Pasal chorin, there's another way of interpreting it. Ne'amoni lo ma'ichnastu avalo naganu. They're believed to say, we went and we didn't touch. Lachein tzricha. Now, lachein tzricha means like lo kein tzricha. And this is only necessary to tell us, meaning, we're only meant to tell us this, b'sheyesh edim yodim. When there are witnesses who knew what was going on. Meaning that they're believed to say, we touched, and we granted did not touch, even where there are people who are aware of they're going in. Now, this is talking about outside Yerushalmi. According to the second resolution, they're believed even outside Yerushalmi. Well, actually, let me read the next line before I go back and explain it. The difference is that in Yerushalmi, where there are witnesses which know, so then in Yerushalmi they're still believed. Outside Yerushalmi they're not believed, where witnesses know. Meaning that where they're not a sole source of information, outside Yerushalmi we can't believe them. But the inference of this second solution is that even outside Yerushalmi, if they are our sole source of information, then they are believed even on Kodesh. So the first solution holds that it makes no difference whether they're a sole source of information or not. Outside Yerushalmi, they're only believed on Chulin, on mundane stuff. In Yerushalmi, they're believed even on Kodesh. According to the second resolution, outside Yerushalmi, they'll also believe on Kodesh, as long as they are sole source of information. In Yerushalmi, they're believed on Kodesh, even if they are not a sole source of information, right?
When you say believe, you believe they touched it or not?
Believe that they know, that they entered and did not touch, that did not make a tummy. Okay? Yerushalmi Levi said, interesting halacha. Yerushalayim, this is a quote from a verse in Tehillim. Yerushalayim habenuya, Yerushalayim is built up ki ir shechubra lo yachdov, like a city which is connected together. Now the way we explain that, a beautiful drasha, ir shi osas kol Yisrael chaverim. It's a city which makes all Jews friends. But friends here does not mean friends in the sense which you're thinking of. Neither does it mean Quakers. It means rather that they are what? Right, a chaver means rather that they're given credibility in matters of Tum and Tara. Again, Yerushalayim is a special level. People who come to Yerushalayim are considered to be on a special level vis-a-vis Tum and Tara. Not necessarily for mystical reasons, but in essence because people knew in Yerushalayim they had to be more sensitive. It simply was considered to be, the capital of holiness in the Jewish people. So, what? Status, right, you got it. Oh, so wait a minute, but it said in Yerushalayim, it said in our Mishnah, they believe in Yerushalayim on Kodesh, the whole year. But only on Yontif are they believed on Truma. Why only on Yontif? Yerushalayim has this exalted status, let it be the entire year round. So it says, it's only given because the pasuk says, Sheshama Olu Shvatim Shivtei Ka Edus LiYisrael. It says Yerushalayim makes everybody friends at the time when the Shvatim, when all the tribes go up to Yerushalayim. So therefore, it's only at the time of the holidays, the pilgrimage festivals, then Yerushalayim has a special level vis-a-vis Truma. The rest of the year it has a special level vis-a-vis Kodesh, but only on Yontif vis-a-vis Truma. Okay, turning the page. HaPosech es Chavisa. We're in the home stretch. HaPosech es Chavisa. Somebody opens his barrel. When somebody begins with his dough. Al Gava Regel on a Yontif. Now, the halacha is, of course, that on Yontif, especially in Yerushalayim, but even in the rest of the, it seems that even in the rest of, not the rest of Eretz Yisrael, but a certain radius, we said outside Yerushalayim, Mina Modis V'Lifnim, from a certain area outside Yerushalayim to Yerushalayim, during times of Yontif, everybody had a status of chaverim, right? We said that everybody had the credibility of chaverim during that period of Yom Tov. So what if you started a barrel of wine on Yom Tov, and of course many people touched it, or even people who the rest of the year you wouldn't grant that level of credibility that they are tar. Or you began a dough, and many people touched it. People the rest of you wouldn't grant credibility that they're tar. So now, what happens after Yom Tov? Rabbi Yehuda says you can finish it, because that which they said that on Yom Tov, we don't care who touches it. We assume that they're all tar. Remains after Yom Tov true as well. The chomer means low yigmor. You're not allowed to finish it. So it's a special dispensation only for the days of Yom Tov. And after Yom Tov is over, if you didn't finish your barrel by the end of Yom Tov, that's it. You may not finish the barrel afterwards. Not because people touched it after Yom Tov, but rather because the people touched it on Yom Tov. The dispensation to ignore the possibility that they are tummy ends when Yom Tov ends. Okay? Right. So now it's grape juice. So it says more. Hoyu ma'avirin mishava regel. Once Yom Tov passes, hoyu ma'avirin al taras hazara. They used to go through the Kohanim in the Beis Hamikdash. They used to go through and ensure the sanctity of all the vessels in the Beis Hamikdash. The Hazara literally means the Korea Beis Hamikdash, and that will actually be described in the next Mishnah when we get there. However, of our regel b'yom hashishi, if Yom Tov finished on Friday, lo yimavir, they didn't do it because they covered Shabbos because there's no time to do it before Shabbos. Rabbi Yehuda aflo b'yom chamishi. This is true even if Yom Tov finished on Thursday. Sheina kohanim cleaning because there's no time between Thursday and Friday to get cracking on cleaning up and purifying the Hazara. Okay, Rabbi Chaz says when Rabbi Chidim Shem Yochanan said Hitiru sofim neitchiloso. Now he explained the logic of Yehuda says that even after Yom Tov you can finish your barrel which you began on Yom Tov or your dough which you began on Yom Tov. They permitted the end, meaning after Yom Tov, because of the beginning, because of Yom Tov. Meaning, if you tell me he may not finish his barrel after Yom Tov, he will not open his barrel on Yom Tov. He won't go and sell the wine to people who potentially might defile it. Says Gemara, no, so what's so terrible? Let him not open his barrel. It says no, we can't. It's not a solution. If he doesn't open his barrel, he diminishes the joy of Yom Tov. And since we're all pro enjoying Yom Tov, so therefore we have to, Rabbi Yehuda's perspective was that once he begins, we allow him to finish, lest next Yom Tov he doesn't even begin to distribute his wine or his dough, whatever we're talking about. Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachman b'Shem Rabbi Yonason said, "Mapli." And where's their machlokas? Where's an argument? And where did Rabbi Yehuda give special dispensation to continue with the barrel even after the Yom Tov is over? V'chavis shel yain, with a barrel of wine. V'chavis shel shemen, but it's a barrel of oil. Kol ama moidei. Everybody can see it. Even Rabbi Yehuda she'eno gomer. You may not finish it after Yom Tov. Now there are a couple of reasons given for this in the commentators. One reason given here by the Gilin and Shas is because wine, if you can't drink it, there's nothing else you can do with it. So therefore they have to let you finish your barrel. But oil, if you can't drink it, you can use it for fuel.
Do they
So
drink oil?
no, it was considered unhealthy to drink oil. Well, I'm saying, it's obviously they didn't drink it.
They use it as a condiment?
They use it as a condiment. They use it as salad dressing, but they also use it as fuel. So that's what I'm saying. That Rabbi Yehuda would not need to permit the guy to finish his barrel of oil after Yom Tov, because if he couldn't use it for food, for a condiment, he just use it for oil, so it's not so terrible. The Mashpiach says in another perspective, he says the reason why Rabbi Yehuda allowed you to finish your barrel of wine, because if you don't finish it, you're not going to open it on Yom Tov, right? And people are going to be deprived of the joy of wine on Yom Tov. However, what's going to happen if we don't allow you to finish your oil after Yom Tov? You won't open your barrel of oil on Yom Tov? So what? Whose joy of Yom Tov is impeded by not having oil? Contrary, the simcha of not having cholesterol, saturated fats, is very great. So therefore, on the count, we don't care. Let him not open his barrel of oil on Yom Tov. What do we care? Okay? So it says Marketzerosa. So this is going back to what Rabbanan would advise you to do. Again, according to Rabbanan, what would you do with the leftover wine? considering that you can't finish it on the weekday following Yontif. So Tanya Reb Chia learned shofcha, you spill it. Tanya Bar Kapara Shovra, you break the barrel. It's interesting, these opinions are not brought down in the Bavli. The only opinion brought down in the Bavli is the next one. For Tana, the our Tana is Rabbi Chalafta Bar Shol, and Rabbi Chalafta Bar Shol holds that Menicho l'regel haba. You leave it for the next Yom Tov. In other words, they didn't give you dispensation to finish your barrel according to Rabbanan during weekdays, but you can always leave it for the next Yom Tov, and then the dispensation comes back into force. Okay? It's interesting. So it's like Yom Tov is a tumah-free zone, and as long as you keep your barrel from Yom Tov to Yom Tov, you're okay. Rabbi Simon Moshe Rishon Levi said, Yom Tov Shchal Yos Be'erev Shabbos. Actually, this is a new paragraph. It's linked, but not so closely to the end of the Mishnah, where we said that the Kohanim don't have time to clean up the Hazorah if Yom Tov ends on a Friday. So now this is a parallel issue. So Rishon Levi said, Yom Tov Shchal Yos Be'erev Shabbos. If Yom Tov comes out on a Friday, right? In other words, it ends on a Friday, as we said in our Mishnah. Ochel, you can eat with the Amoritz, meaning share with the Amoritz your food without worrying about his defiling it, even on the Shabbos, which comes out after Yontif. Why? Because Aftishbos Haregel Karegel. Interesting language. Also, the cessation of activity because of Yontif is like Yontif, meaning you're in Yerushalayim for that Shabbos, which you normally would not be because you can't leave, and you came up for the Yontif. So therefore, that Shabbos, which you're spending in Yerushalayim because of Yontif, is like Yontif itself, and they grant you dispensation. So it works on both sides, of course, as well. If Shabbos comes out Erev Yontif, Shabbos comes out after Yontif, so then you have that dispensation of assuming that the Amoretz is Tahar, even on that Shabbos, which is an extension of the Yontif. Rabbi Zira said, Masisa Amrakain? We have a Brisa which says this. The Brisa says, I don't know where, but the Brisa says, Erev HaPesach kePesach. The day before Pesach is like Pesach. The Yom HaTvoach, the day after Shavuos, when they used to slaughter the karbanos which could not be brought on Shavuos, Katzeres is like Shavuos. Rabbi Chanina said, Avanant Nina. Now here's the linkage back to our Mishnah. We also had the Mishnah, the Rabbah. The Rabbah means an even greater Chiddush. What's a greater Chiddush? Rabbi Yomer Aflo B'Yom HaChamishi. They wouldn't even clean the courtyard when Yom Tov ended on a Thursday, Sheina Kohanim, because the Kohanim didn't have the time. So he wants to infer from our Mishnah that it's not just if Shabbos is immediately adjacent before or after Yom Tov, but even if there's a day interval in between, since there's no time to leave Yerushalayim and get home, so therefore, or no time to get to Yerushalayim between Shabbos and Yom Tov, so therefore you have the dispensation of being allowed to eat and enjoy together with the Amoretz for that Shabbos before or after the Yom Tov. Okay, last Mishnah Masechta Chagigah. Ketzah Mavirim Al Taras Hazorah. How do the Kohanim go and purify the Hazorah, the courtyard of the Beis Hamikdash? Matbilim es hakelim shu b'mikdash. They would take all the vessels which were in the Beis Hamikdash and dunk them in a mikveh. Plain, simple. Kol hakelim shu b'mikdash. All the vessels which are in the Beis Hamikdash, hoylem shnim u'shlishim, they had backups and backups to the backups. Okay, second and third string. Shim nidmor rishonim. If the first ones became tomei, yoviu shnim tachteim, they would bring the second ones in lieu of them. And if those who come tomei, there's still another backup. Kol hakelim shu b'mikdash she'tunim tefillah. All the vessels in the Beis Hamikdash would have to be dunked in the mikveh, except for two. Chutzi mizrach hazav, except for the gold altar, which was the one in which they brought the ketores, incense, and the copper altar. Actually, in the Beis Hamikdash itself, they didn't have a copper altar. They had a altar made out of earth, out of cement. But in the Mishkan, they still had a copper altar, and that was those two. The Mizbeach Hazav and the Mizbeach Nechoshes, the gold and copper altars, would not have to be put in Mikvah, Neshe and Karka, because they are like they are ground. They're not really the ground. They're separate vessels. But since they're considered to have the status of the ground, and the Gemara is going to explain why. Divrei Belezer. Chacham say the reason why they do not have to. The reason why they have to. Actually, the reason why they don't have to go to the mikvah is because they are actually wooden vessels. It happens to be that they're covered with a layer of metal, right? They were, what's the word, plated, but the base was wood, and wood does not become tamei unless it has a receptacle. But these did not have a receptacle; they were just wooden blocks. So therefore, and they weren't solid wood, but they were wood nailed together, not meant to hold anything, and coated with metal. So that's why they don't become tamei, because they're wooden vessels. Okay, says Mar.
Is that true? You say the general rule that a vessel to hold food.
You know what? If this desk did not have the drawers, we can become tamei, because they're made to hold things. But the rest of the desk would not be tamei, because it's a wooden vessel.
I thought vessel, by definition, is something that can hold.
No. This is a vessel. It's a desk. What would you call it? Any furniture is a vessel, according to the Torah's definition. Keli it doesn't mean a vessel in the sense of container. It means an object. So this is an object. That's called a vessel. What? It's an object is not a receptacle. That's right. So that's the difference. Okay, the
vessel means carry. It's like a vessel.
Right, but that's not a precise definition of the Hebrew term. The Hebrew term keli means object more than vessel. Okay, so a wooden object is not makabel tuma unless it's made to be a receptacle. Okay, but kelim tunin tefillah. Ask the Gemara, why do you have to title the kelim? What's after yontif? The only kohanim touch the vessels and the objects in the base of mikdash. What's the problem? So it says, I say that potentially this is like a halachic paranoia. I'm afraid that maybe one of the vessels, shlohuza, was not sprinkled properly with para aduma waters, with waters from the red heifer at a time before yontif, and maybe at some point something which was had the tumah of a dead body came into contact with it, and therefore we have to actually now dunk it in the mikveh. Says more. Wait a minute. If that's true, let's be suspicious of all vessels. Meaning, what it means is not just to require them to go to the mikveh. Also, the missions they have to go to the mikveh. But if you're afraid that actually one of them came into contact with tumas meis, so then mikveh's not enough. You got to sprinkle paraduma water on all of them, right? Mikveh doesn't suffice. So Rabbi Mechir said, you're right. That's not the what we're afraid of. We're afraid of is Ani Omer Sheyasham Ech Min HaKohanim. I say there'll be one of the Kohanim Sheyotza Dabrei Ma'isha who went out to talk with a woman who was a nida al iske kino concerning the pair of birds she brought as a carbon. V'natzat tzinora shorok, and some saliva spewed mitoch pia from her mouth al begadav on his clothes v'timaso, and made him dummy. Okay, and then he went and he touched the vessels. So says the Gemara, okay, but if that's the case, it's me'ata nachush l'kulam. The halacha is if somebody who's tummy is to come into contact with a nida, touches a vessel, that vessel must go to the mikveh. It doesn't have to have paraduma water special, sprinkled on it, but it also has to wait till nightfall. What? Well, he can do his clothes separately. He doesn't have to wear his clothes, but the clothes have to go to the mikveh as well. Right. So when he goes, then those clothes are tummy till nightfall. So why does it say in our Mishnah that the vessels are tummy till nightfall? Why is it not mentioned? Okay, means let's be concerned that it should have to wait till nightfall. So that's when you know what, you're right. We're not concerned with any of those things. Those are too remote. Tipater will tell you about a case let's solve it. Where we're not sure that perhaps an impure liquid touched the vessels in the Beis Hamikdash. And of course, an impure liquid, other than the saliva or the body fluids of a person who's a zav, a woman who's a zava, any other beverage which are tummy, only tummy the rabbanon. And since any other tuma beverages are the rabbanon, so therefore it does not require that it stay over till nightfall. So that's why they weren't concerned with that. Okay, let's go now to the top of Beis Hamikdash. Talmud we learned over there. Safek mashkin. We have a question of beverages which were tameh. Litama tameh, that they should be considered tameh. In other words, whether we deem these beverages tameh or not, we have to be stringent and assume they became tameh. However, litameh, if our question is whether they defiled something else, in a case of doubt, tahor, we assume it's tahor. So the Gemara is asking a question. The Gemara is saying, you're saying, our mission is talking about a case where we're not sure if a tameh beverage perhaps came into contact with the vessels in the Beis Hamikdash. But the halacha is in any case of insecurity of that sort, since it's a tumah d'rabbanan, since it's a rabbinic tumah, we're lenient. We say in a case of doubt it's tahor. So how come they have to dunk all these vessels in the mikveh? True, they don't have to wait till nightfall because it's only tumah d'rabbanan. But why have to dunk them at all? So it's more the answer which you knew was coming. Tamam b'truma. Where are we lenient when it's a matter of truma? However, kan b'kodesh, you're talking about holy stuff in the Beis Hamikdash. Chomer hu b'kodesh. By the Beis Hamikdash, we're more severe. Okay, period. Now, new issue. Tani, we learned. Shulchan Shnitba, this is not in the Bavli. It's a big discussion here among the Achronim, whether this is in fact a bona fide Gemara or something here was added in. L'maisa, most of them say it's bona fide, they just make slight changes. Tani, Shulchan Shnitba, the table in the Beis Hamikdash, which held the showbreads, which became Tameh, Matbilin also bismano, you dunk it at its proper time, which is, take out the word afilu b'Shabbos. That's an interesting thing, explained by the Achronim. The shulchan became tamei on Tuesday, right? The shulchan holding the showbreads became tamei on Tuesday. Why don't you dunk in the mikveh right away? So the reason is, why wouldn't you dunk and wait till Shabbos? Because every Shabbos you took the bread off, but the entire week you're supposed to leave the bread on. So even though the bread is tamei, it's a higher value in halacha, according to this Tana, who's Rabbi Meir, to leave the bread on till Shabbos in the state of Tumah, they have to take it off in the middle of the week. And therefore you leave it till the time when you're going to change the bread anyway on Shabbos, dunk it in the mikveh on Shabbos between the breads, as opposed to dunking in the mikveh on Tuesday, or Wednesday, or whenever it occurs. Alright? Divrei Meir. The Chachamim said it's better to take it to the mikveh immediately. You don't leave it tamei in the Beis Hamikdash. The value of not leaving the table tamei in the Beis Hamikdash overwhelms the value of having the breads on the table constantly, as it says tamei. Ashkechas oimer. So you come out saying an interesting thing. Al daiti reimer konar reimer metame shnei luchamim. 2 series of breads are going to become tamei. Because if it's a severe enough tumah to make the shulchan tamei, to make the table tamei, it probably is the type of tumah which is going to be tamei till nightfall. So therefore, even though you put in the mikveh, it's still going to be tamei till nightfall. Such as, let's say, a kohen who's a zav touched it, right? So it's tamei till nightfall. So actually, the first set of bread is going to be tamei, because it actually was on the table when the table became tamei. And even the second set of bread, you put on the table on Shabbos, before nightfall, is going to become tamei as well. And still Rabbi Meir holds to wait till Shabbos. Nevertheless, I'll die to the Rabbanan, according to Rabbanan, of course, since you're going to do in the middle of the week, right? You're going to dunk in the middle of the week, so only the bread which is on there now will be tamei. The bread which comes on Shabbos, that bread already will be tar. So that seems Rabbanan are placing more value on diminishing tumah. Says the Gemara, no. I feel Rabbi Yaakov Bar Sisi, Kum Rabbi Yosa. Rabbi Yaakov Bar Sisi said in front of Yosa, could be I feel daiti Rameir, Rinkor Rameir, Ein Matame Alechem Milchad Bilvad. It's the only time Rameir would say to wait till Shabbos might be when only one set of breads will become tamei, not where both sets of bread will become tamei. And Tipat there, and perhaps we can resolve the Rameir is talking about specifically Shanitma. It says you're besafik mashkin, but could be even mashkin itself. when it became tummy with the tumah d'Rabbanan, such as tummy beverages. Because then, again, it's not tummy till nightfall. It's only tummy until you dunk it in the mikveh. And then, only one set of bread becomes tummy, the set of bread which was on the table when it became tummy. So it's possible, says Rabbi Yaakov Bar Sisei, that Rabbi Meir also would agree there was a tumah d'oraisa which came into contact with the table, that we would dunk it immediately, in order to prevent two sets of bread becoming tummy. But it only went to tumah d'Rabbanan, where anyway only one set of bread becomes tummy. So then he would say, and besides it's just a tumah d'Rabbanan, of course, he would say, wait till Shabbos, better to dunk it on Shabbos than to take off the bread in the middle of the week. Okay? It's interesting, machlokas, again, not brought down the Bavli. Now one time they dunked the menorah in the mikveh. Amud Stokim and the Sadducees, they said, "Heh! Rub Prushim, look at these Pharisees. Matbilim Galgal Chama." They take the sun and dunk it in the mikveh. Now the question is, what was bothering the Stokim? It's not clear, what was really bothering them. So the many interpretations given here, kind of some interesting ones and some strange ones. But I like the one I saw in the Yerushalmi Mavur, which says that the Stokim hold there's no such thing as Tumah D'Rabbanan. Because they didn't believe in the Rabbanans. That was the whole point of the Stoking. So therefore they said there's no such thing as a menorah becoming tamei from a tumah d'Rabbanan. So when they took this and they dunked in the mikveh, so then it was a fruitless gesture. That's when they made a mockery of it. One other interpretation, which I didn't like as much, but sounds valid as well, is that the menorah also, the Stokim hold that the menorah has to be burning all the time. The Pnei Moshe says this. The menorah has to be burning all the time. And therefore it's like the shulchan. It's better, and therefore it's better not to toivel it, even though it's a tamei, in order to make sure that it's constantly burning. We don't hold that way. We hold it has to burn through the night, but does not have to burn during the day, and therefore we would hold that it can be put in the mikveh during the day. Okay? Tamatzi, we learned over there. Nichnasu lishkas hakelim. Every morning, when they entered Beis Hamikdash, they went in and they went into the office where they kept the implements. And they took out 93 vessels of silver, and vessels of gold. Why 93? So Rav Shmuel bar Nachman said, because it says 93 times the name of God, in the last three prophets. The prophets who prophesied at the time that the second temple was built. So to commemorate that, in the second temple, they had 93 vessels in order to correspond to that book, in those books in the Tanakh. I counted them. There are only 83 names of Hashem in these three books. Now, the Achronim, you see there's a lot of commentary on the page. They're all trying to go through the count. We, thank God, have no desire to go through the count, right? So therefore, we're just going to trust that they're not 93, they're only 83, and we're not going to try and even figure out why they thought there were 93. We'll leave that to the people who like writing in fine print. So in any event, what corresponding to those 83 times that it says the name of God, there are connected Shmoni V'Shosh Chosam Shchosu Ezra. Ezra had a document on which he got signatories who pledged themselves to frumkeit and to be very holy and to do the right thing and not to intermarry and stuff like that. A whole bunch of pledges. And there are 83 people who signed on that pledge. So that corresponds to 83 times that the name of God is mentioned in Chagah Chayim Malachi. What? Yeah, there was money. There was money with strange hands. No, I don't know if there was any money to change it. So David, why should each one who signed this document, he was showing the oneness of the name of God and signing that way. Now, so if that's the case, only 83 mentioned. So how do we get up to 93? So he's 93 vessels. Each the boy Meimar. So one wanted to say, like turning the page, like the day in which there is the most korbanos. Tamid is a korban tzibur, and I'm talking about the most korbanos tzibur. On one of the first day of Sukkot, Keneged Yud Gimel Purim, when there were 13 bulls, Yudal Kvasim, and 14 sheep, that's 27. Ve'elim Shleim, and 2 rams, that's 29. The Soyer Echad, and one chatos, one goat for chatos, and that's how much is that? 30. So here, and therefore it's 30, and each korban requires 3 vessels. One for receiving the blood, another one for the mincha, which covers each korban, and a third for the libation of the wine, nisuch hayayin. So that's altogether 30 times 3 is 90, plus the korban tamid, which is another 3. So that's 93. Now it happens to be that there, it says this is all from the Shari Torah Eretz Yisrael. You have to take out 2 vessels because the soyer echad did not have flour for the mincha or wine come with it, and instead of them, you put in another 2, one for the pancakes of the Kohen Gadol, which were brought in the morning and the afternoon. So we had one vessel which was used both the morning and afternoon, and one for the water libation, because it's Sukkot and it was a water libation on Sukkot. So that corresponds to 93 vessels. So since one day a year, they required 93 vessels for all the korbanos, so every day they took out 93 vessels. That's how they worked it. Okay? Rabbi Shila the Kfar Tarmasa B'Shem Rabbi Yochanan said, time of the Rabbi Lezer. Now getting back to Rabbi Lezer holds that all the vessels in the Beis Hamikdash became tamei, except for the Mizbach Hazav, except for the 2 altars. So what's his logic? So it says, time of Rabbi Lezer, it's piso so zav tar. It says you should cover the inner mizbeach with gold, and it says there, although the pasuk is not brought down in Yerushalmi here verbatim, it says there eskagov eskirosov, its roof and its walls. Now that's a funny language. You don't say about a desk the roof of the desk or the walls of the desk. So since it says the roof and the walls, the Torah is regarding it, even though it was a vessel, an object, as if it is part of the ground, right? HaTorah Karaso so karka. The Torah calls the ground, that's why it has that look of ground that doesn't receive tumah. Ad Kedum Mizbech Hazav. Until now, we only see in this verse the golden Mizbech for the incense. Mizbech Ha'olam Minai. We know it's true also about the copper Mizbech for the korbanos themselves. V'dinu. As the Gemara says, it's a logic. Umay, it's like a Kavachomer. My Mizbech Hazav, the gold Mizbech, that was tiny and really could be carried very easily. Shu'am al-amo is 1 cubit by 1 cubit. You say it's like the ground. Mizbech Ha'olah, the larger Mizbech for the Karbanos, Shu Chamesh is just 5 by 5 cubits, low kol shekain, it certainly is considered to be like the ground, which is a funny Kavachomer. And the Gemara knows that. So the Gemara comes along and says, eat the boy memory. So there's those who want to say it's not a Kavachomer, but rather it's a Gzer Shav. It's a parallel term. Ravua. They're both called square with the same term, Ravua. Makan Karka, and therefore we say, just like this one is ground, so this one's ground, and neither of them can become tummy. Rabbi Ila said, time of the Rabbanon. What's the logic of Rabbanon, who say that even the Mizbeach could theoretically become tamei, if not for the fact that it's made out of wood? What's their logic? A Mizbeach ate, it says in Pasuk in Yechezkel, the Mizbeach was wood. Shalosh Amos Gova, 3 Amos Haiva Gomer, etc. HaTorah, the Torah, now it's not actually Torah, it's the Navi, but the Navi calls it Metalto. It calls it something carrying. Now, here again, part of the pasuk is not here, but the critical part of the pasuk, as the Korban and Pnei Moshe bring down, is that it says that the Navi Yechezkel calls the Mizbeach a shulchan, a table. You know, they say that never sit on a table because a table is like a Mizbeach, but this is the opposite. A Mizbeach is called a table, right? Since Mizbeach is called a table there, so therefore, just like a table, something portable, so the Navi is relating to the Mizbeach as if it's something portable as well. So that's our Rabbanan hold that theoretically the Mizbeach can become something, right? Ad could do Mizbeach Ola. Well, that's fine. That's about the outer Mizbeach for the Karbanos. Mizbeach Hazav Minai. What about the gold Mizbeach for the incense? V'dinu. So here again we try and use logic. It's a kavachom in the other direction. In Mizbeach Ola, if the outer Mizbeach Shuhei which is 5 by 5 cubits, Tatam Rametato, you say it's portable. Mizbeach Hazav, the gold Mizbeach, Shual Ama, which is only an Ama, Lo Koshke is not certainly that it's considered portable. And of course, since we don't want to use a Kavah Chomer exclusively, Is Meim, Is Boy Mer, those who want to say, Ravua, to Yerushalmi Chagigah, Neshem Mitzupim. Chachamim say that they're considered to be coated. So it says the Gemara, now, Lo Tzibui Shu'omed Machmosahu is not a coating, which stands, it's not a coating which stands on its own, right? So if it stands on its the two ways of learning this, the way that most of the Mefarshim learn it, is going on Chachamim. I want to learn it even though it says Chachamim Neshim Mitzubim, I wanted to learn that it's going on Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer holds that even though it was coated wood, it still is Makabel Tuma, right? So I think that this is the way to learn it. Although again it goes against all the Mefarshim, but it reads easier. Okay, so this is the way I want to read it. Lo tzipah machmaso. If the coating should be considered to be subordinate to the wood, because it's held up by the wood. Since it's held up by the wood, so it's not significant, and therefore it shouldn't be considered to be a metal vessel. How can Rabbi Eliezer consider that to be metal vessels, that they're makabel tuma? The metal is subordinate to the wood, which supports it. So it says more. Rabbi Shimon Levi said Rabbi Yoshia, "Kovi dinar gurdoinin havaba." No, it was thick like a coin, like a dinar gurdoinin, a thick coin, and that thickness is sufficient that I consider to be a metal vessel because of the substance of the gold itself. Another way of learning it, Rabbi Law said, if it's necessary for the use of the mizbeach to be metal, and omin machmosu, you can't consider it subordinate to the wood. Meaning, you can't burn incense or korbanos on wood. You have to have the metal coating, right? So you can't consider the metal coating subordinate to the wood. It's got to be considered distinct, and that's why Rabbi Eliezer held that they were makabel tuma, despite the fact that they're only coated wood. Okay? Asakai dama Rabbi Shimon Lakish. That's what Shimon Lakish says. Vasisa mizbeach miktar ktores heksika. Now nobody knows how to read this line. I'm going to give my suggestion. He's really giving this according to the trup in the pasuk. The pasuk's trup, the way you learn is vasisa mizbeach miktar ktores. Vasisa is a mercha, ketores mizbeach is a tifcha, miktar is a munach, and ketores is a snachta. So it's really like two different phrases. Vasisa mizbeach, kama, make an altar, miktar ketores. So the place to bring up the incense. So why is it two separate phrases, right? It's not one long phrase. Ela miktar ketores. It's a separate phrase, right? It's not one long, but two separate phrases. Hamizbeach hoya maktir es haktores. The mizbeach held up the metal, which was that which was maktir the ketores. So it actually was two separate components. There's the mizbeach, which is the wooden part, and then there's the miktar ketores part, which is the metal coating on which you put the ketores. So that's Rabbi Eliezer, despite the fact that it was coated wood, nonetheless it can become tummy. Okay? Says the Gemara, now we're really going back again. We're saying, why is it? Yes. Okay, we'll be there in a second. So it says the Gemara, anyway, it should be like a tablet which is made to carry and transport. And located on Rabbi Yami Shimon Lakish. Then Rabbi Yami say name Shimon Lakish. Hashulchan Lama Tami. Why could the table in the base of Midrash come Tami? Lo Neshmotino so Marino so Oli Regolim. Because they used to take it out and show it to the pilgrims, so they actually moved it. So that's true when it's made to be portable. But the Mizbeach, they weren't made to be portable. So how come they're Makabel Tuma? Okay, in other words, we said that the Kohen Rabbanan, the Mizbeach could be Makabel Tuma. Why could it be Makabel Tuma? It's stationary. Anything which is made to be stationary is not Makabel Tuma, right? So it said a wooden vessel is made to be stationary. So it says Gemara, you know what? I don't want to keep them waiting. Maybe we'll come back if you come back for a couple minutes after Mara, we'll finish after Mara. It was not connected to the ground. They used to fill it up with dirt. The first one was Bechazov, had probably a wooden piece at the bottom. Secondly, even the Mizbach HaNechoshes, which they used to fill up with dirt at every stop, but the structure itself remained separate. If you filled up the underneath of this desk with dirt, it would still remain a distinct desk, right?
Yeah, right.
So how is it connected to the ground?
I thought there was some sort of way it's attached to the ground.
Only when they built it in the Beis HaMikdash. Until then, it was completely separate from the ground.
They build it up from the ground.
It was like cement.
Okay, so
They poured cement.
it in and affixed it to.
No.
So then it makes sense.
That was connected to the ground, but when it was
It came up from the ground.
right. But previous to that, it was a portable piece of copper. Actually, I shouldn't say portable. It was a portable wood frame coated by copper, which was placed on the ground. Actually, it was placed on a mound of dirt every stop, where the Mishkan came to rest,
Well,
whatever.
they literally built it up from the ground with concrete. Well,
Right, that's
concrete in each side purpose. And that they built it up
Right.
from the dirt
Right.
on the ground, which hardened.
Right.
And as it hardened, they affixed to it this vessel which they transported.
No, they discarded it at that point. How did it start? They buried it. There were two separate mizbach. The mizbeach in the altar in the Beis HaMikdash was separate and distinct. They no longer retained the copper mizbeach. Our Mishnah talk about the copper mizbeach, which was in use until they entered the Beis HaMikdash. That's what we're talking about. Okay, and that one, the Rabbi Eliezer holds it could become. It did not become tamei because there's a special halacha that even though it was not considered to be part and parcel of the ground, technically speaking, it had the status like connected to the ground. Status, right? Again, because it's described as having a roof and walls, right? And the question which we're asking now is why otherwise it was metame.
Right.
Because otherwise, so what? It's still like Chacham say, it's a wooden vessel coated. And that Rabbi Eliezer was justifying the whole time by saying that the coating is distinct and therefore would have been metame if not for the fact that it has the special status as connected to the ground. Okay? So now, the Gemara's question is, the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7. No, before that. 9 lines to the bottom. And we'll start. We stopped in the middle before. Okay. Now, the halacha is the halacha is of course that something which is portable is makabel tuma. It can become tummy. Something which is stationary is not can't become tummy. So now. Says the Gemara, let it be considered to be portable, and let it be makabel tum because it's portable. Says, I'm sorry. It should actually. I think there's a word missing here. It should, or maybe it said in astonishment. Let me change the inflection of it without changing words. So why do you want to say? Why Rabbi Eliezer said it's tummy word, not for fact that it has a special status as if it's connected to the ground? Because it must be because it's made to be portable. But that's not true. Same Rabbi Shimon Lakish. How shulchan lama tamei? Why was the table in the Beis HaMikdash tamei? Lomi nesh motzino. So it's only because it was portable. Because they would take it out and marino so and show it lowly regalim to the people who came to on pilgrimage festivals. V'zeh lo b'komo omeid. And this didn't it stay in spots? Right, it stayed in one spot, so how could it become tummy? It wasn't portable. Now I want to point out the mizbeach, the shulchan could not become tummy, could not become tummy unless it was portable, because it was a wooden vessel. And wooden vessels can only become tummy if they're portable. Now, you might the difference between the shulchan and the mizbeach, though, is a critical one, which we mentioned before. A shulchan, the table, could serve as a table to hold bread, even if it wasn't coated with metal, right? So therefore, the coating of the table was really considered to be obviously subordinate to the table status as wood. So therefore, with the table not portable, it would not have been
Dormant.
right. The metal's in dormant. Right, good word. So therefore, the table would not have become tamei except for the fact it was portable. Now, on the other hand, we're saying that the mizbeach was makabel tuma, despite the fact that the mizbeach was makabel tuma because of its status as having a metal covering, which was independent because it was not dormant, because you couldn't burn anything on the couldn't burn anything on top of it.
Right.
if not for the fact that it has a separate metal covering. But Rabbanan nevertheless hold that the Rabbanan hold that it's not Makabel Tuma because it's covered, right? 1 second. It's covered. Right, it's a covered vessel. Oh no, so question on the question is really going back, that's why I started saying before Mariv, I forgot. This question is really going back in time. We have this very often in Yerushalmi. It's taking a different tack. With according to Rabbi Lezer, we said the reason why it's Makabel Tuma is because it has a separate coating which is distinct from the bottom that we said previously. But now the Yerushalmi is kind of taking a step back and is saying, well, let's look at it from its wooden angle. From its wooden angle, could it be Makabel Tuma? L'chora, no, it would seem not. It couldn't be Makabel Tuma because it's not made to move, right? Right? So if it's not made to move, so therefore it's not portable, it can't be Makabel Tuma, right? V'yetor, v'lamu tameh. And on that, again, the Yerushalmi says the same thing again it said before from a different angle. Ramana said, Kai Ditzniya Tamon, a very interesting parallel, a Yerushalmi type parallel. We learn a Mishnah, an obscure Mishnah in Masechta Kelim. All Masechta Kelim is obscure. So Masechta Kelim has a Mishnah which says, Sholosh Mashpelos, the 3 types of baskets. And without going into the details of the 3 types of baskets, the first type of basket mentioned in the Mishnah is a basket made to take out garbage. And it says there, a basket made to take out garbage is considered to be, can become tamei if a zav, a person who's a zav has a mission, or a zava, or a nida, sits on it. Even though most baskets are not made for sitting. But the thing is, when you pile it high with garbage, so then people do sit on it. So a basket which is not made for sitting cannot become tamei if somebody sits on it. Because we have a principle, any type of object where if somebody sits on it, we say, get off, we want to use it, so it can't become tamei if a person sits on it. But the case of a vessel which contains garbage, when it's full of garbage, they allow people to sit on it. Nobody cares. So therefore it could be tamei tumas medrash.
Because it's garbage.
Right. But the thing is, you should.
Which inherently could include tamei.
But it's not because the garbage is tamei. It's because the guy sitting on it. Look it. The guy sitting on it makes it tamei, and not just the garbage tamei, but it makes the actual basket tamei.
But the basket's for garbage.
But the basket now serves as a seat. A basket full of garbage equals a seat. I'm not making this up. The Mishnah says this.
Okay.
Now the parallel is like this. Look at the parallel. The parallel is very, very cute. And Rabbi Zir explains the parallel. Rabbi Zir said, gav chavileha. Because you use it in a combination, meaning basket plus garbage equals seat. So too, by the Mizbeach, so too here, the wooden part plus the metal part equals something which can be Makabel Tuma. So really, the Yerushalmi is saying the same thing it said before from a different angle. Just like you have, before we said the metal is distinct, and therefore the metal, it gives the status of a metal object. Wait, let me finish before you critique. Metal objects can become tamei independently of regardless of whether they're moved or not, regardless of portable or not. So too here, this Mizbeach, of course, since the metal is distinct, it will be Makabel Tuma, regardless if it's wood underneath. Now the Yerushalmi is saying the same thing from a slightly different nuance. The Yerushalmi is saying, to tackle from the question of the wood is not portable, and wood which is not portable is not Makabel Tuma. So the Yerushalmi says, yes, but just like we see over there, basket, which can't be Makabel Tuma sitting on it, plus garbage, now does receive the status of a seat, and it is Makabel Tuma from somebody sitting on it. So to here, wooden layer, which can't be Makabel Tuma, plus the metal layer, which gives it its different status, together makes it suitable to be Makabel Tuma, and that's why it's Makabel Tuma, even though it's not portable. You might not like it, but you got to give the Yerushalmi an A+ for creativity on that one, right? On that happy note, we will finish Masechta Chagigah.